Relationship, everybody. My name is Stefania Pulio from the Gentleman Square. For those of you that don't know me, I am a love and relationship consultant and a certified hypnotherapist. And in today's show, I'm so excited to be here. We've got a fabulous segment on, and we're going to be talking about, yes, relationships as always, but we're going to be talking about failed relationships. Yes, failed relationships. And can we learn from failed relationships? Now, before we go on, if you are watching this on the live, please hashtag live, or if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay. And of course, I love it when you join in and you ask me any questions as I go along and, talk about the topic. Please feel free to leave comments, not necessarily immediately, but later on. Share and like this video with those who you feel may benefit. So, the segment show is, can we learn from failed relationships? Can we learn from failed relationships? I mean, I'm sure we've all had a failed relationship or two. Anyone out there who has, please let us know. But it's quite an interesting topic, because sometimes we can, get caught up in, the whole energy and the emotional breakup of a relationship that hasn't gone well. But today I'm going to be speaking about whether we can really learn from, failed relationships, of course. And what do failed relationships teach us? I think that's what's really, a really important factor here. And the third area that I want to cover is, how can we actually let go of the why, to be able to take responsibility, to then let go and move on to bigger and better relationships in our lives. Now, many of us believe that past relationships, are a sign of failure. But we've got to understand that there's no failure. There's no wasted time. We haven't done any mistakes. I think sometimes we can get caught up in, feeling like we've made mistakes. We could have done something different. We could have done it, or we can, fall into the blame game, feeling victim. There's a lot of areas that we can fall prey to that really don't serve us. And also, relationships can leave us feeling, obviously, full of sorrow, a lot of uncertainty. They can leave us feeling, with a lot of anguish and anger. But if we can look at the relationship and look at it from, I guess, a wiser point of view, where we can gain the wisdom of what has actually happened and learn from these relationships that, we are going through in life. Because I always say that life is a bit like a university, right? We are, I guess, moving through life, learning, experiencing, and, trying to be the better versions of ourselves. And I think sometimes what can happen is we can get caught up in wanting everything to be perfect. We want the relationship that we're entering to be the one and the only one. And of course, who doesn't want that, right? We don't want to go through heartache again and breakup, and where there's stress, emotional stress, mental stress, physical, financial stress. A lot of all that, is all comes into when we feel that we have failed at a relationship. But as I said before, life is a journey. And these relationships, I believe, are here to teach us and where we can learn to be, um, better versions of ourselves and also know what it is that we want by knowing what we don't want. And I think sometimes, we can get stuck in the why something happened, why didn't happen, why did it go wrong? And I know from experience, because I have definitely been in that situation where I have, you know, been stuck in the why, wanting to know uh, why did it happen? Why did this person, act the way they did? Or why don't they understand me? And or why did, one particular, I guess, um, experience that I had in my life was where I felt, betrayed. And, for those that have had experience in betrayal and being cheated on, that was one big lesson that I learned. And for some people, they can, move through it by possibly giving that person another chance, and after experiencing being cheated on, to then only experience another episode where that person, their partner, has cheated on them. So in that case, we can look at the learnings. What have we learned? We've learned that, that we may have to trust ourselves to then be able to trust other people. We may learn that, once a person cheats you, once a cheater, always a cheater. We all have different learnings in different experiences in our lives, in different relationships. But what can we actually, what are the learnings? Well, we know that, what am I meant to learn from all this? Why does it have to be so hard? As I said, we sometimes we don't really need to know the why. We only need to know what we are meant to learn from each relationship. And I think, the lessons that we learn, if we can take them on, look at them for what they are, and I guess part of it is accepting what's happening, knowing that we can only control ourselves. We can only have control of how we react. We can't control other people in our lives. And the fact that we can't control other people, um, can help us reflect on what has happened in that relationship, in that failed relationship. And, you know, it doesn't matter how big or how small of, you know, I guess the learning can be, there's always something to take away from it. There's always something that we can actually, take away and use it for our, following relationships that we may enter. But I think what can happen when we have been, left feeling jaded, feeling, you know, full of sorrow, anguish, anger, we may get stuck in that anger. We may get stuck in that trauma. We may get stuck in that feeling of, feeling a victim. And that is not the place we are meant to stay. That is not going to allow us to grow. That's not going to allow us to evolve. And it's definitely not going to allow us to have happier relationships. Because I think, from our lessons and learning that we have our relationships, that the relationships that we have are not mistakes. They're definitely not mistakes. And sometimes what happens is we find ourselves in similar scenarios, but with different people. And often that is because we haven't learned what it is that we need to learn. And we feel that we're constantly failing because we haven't taken the time, particularly after a failed relationship, to actually reflect. Now, I can't express how important it is to take the time to heal after a relationship and after a failed relationship, because when we actually reflect and we take the time to reflect and um, take the necessary actions to move on, let go, release the anger, release the anguish, release the sorrow. Unless we are prepared to do the work to do that, we are going to actually find it hard to move on to another relationship that we desire, another, a relationship hopefully that was better than our last. Now, none of our relationships are mistakes. There's no wrong decisions, okay? There's nothing that we do that is wrong. We are learning from the choices that we're making. Everything that we do, everything that happens is only feedback. And if we can actually grasp that and I guess, understand that there's no right or there's no wrong, there's only feedback from what we have experienced in every relationship that we go through. And, you know, sometimes, we may have experienced where we've had great relationships and everything is going really, really well, to only find that, it ends abruptly, or it ends in a way that we haven't expected. We're not expecting it to end like that. But this enables us to sit back and say, okay, did I trust my feelings? Did I actually overlook the signs? Did I ignore the little things that were happening? Okay, because usually, and I can testify to this, usually, um, you know, there are signs in every one of our relationships that we um, may overlook, or we don't want to take notice of, because we want to be in this relationship so bad that we don't make, I guess, the necessary, um, um, step back and reflect and ask ourselves, how that made me feel, or taking the time to set boundaries, have better communications with our partners. Okay, so not ignoring the small things are really, really important. And setting boundaries. I've spoken about setting boundaries before. But sometimes in our relationships, I guess we can, have a look at, what is it that I'm doing wrong? What is it that I'm doing not necessarily wrong? What pattern am I falling into? What behavioral pattern am I falling into that keeps getting me the same result? And when we can do that, and as I said, step back from the relationship, step back and look at the whole picture like you're looking at a movie. You're watching, and replaying what happened. We can actually learn that we may have needed to, validate ourselves more. We may have, learned to, um, not give our power away. We may have learned that um, we may need to, set better boundaries. There's a lot of things that every relationship teaches us. Now, sometimes it may not be about what we have needed to do, to protect ourselves, to be more caring about ourselves, to put ourselves first. It may be that we may need to reflect and say, well, what didn't I do enough of? What could I have done differently? How could I have loved differently? How could I have listened for the signs? Who do we have here? Pierre. Hello, Pierre. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Good to see you. So, being able to look at your relationships, look at the lessons, but with compassion, with a loving heart, and also with forgiveness. Now, this is something that I think I know I've had to learn forgiveness, because, sometimes we can overanalyze the relationship. We can overanalyze, again, the why, getting stuck on the why, dissecting countless hours of how, um, you know, or why things went so pear-shaped. But in our minds, if we can ask the question, how has this relationship fortified me? How has this relationship made me stronger? Because the saying, what doesn't break you won't kill you. And I think, when we can be gentle on ourselves, be gentle on ourselves, be gentle with the way we treat ourselves about failed relationships, because we can fall into that darkness, that real deep darkness of, it's me that's the problem here, and no one's going to love me. I'm not good enough. I don't feel good enough. I can't get these relationships right. I'm always attracting the wrong person in my life. We can fall into that. But when we can actually ask ourselves the right questions, asking our subconscious mind, because everything we need to know, everything we need to, um, act upon, know how to move and navigate through each relationship, is all stored in us. It's all in us. And often we're looking outside of ourselves. Often we're looking externally. And I know it's easy to be talking to friends and consoling and wanting their opinion, wanting their support and comfort. But when we can actually go within and sit with ourselves and ask, how can I move on from this situation? What is it that I need to learn from this experience that can actually make me stronger for the following relationship? When we can do that, we're better preparing ourselves for better relationships. We're becoming better versions of ourselves. And when we can look at that every relationship that we enter, that person has either been a teacher to us or we have been a teacher to them. And therefore, we've been a student or a teacher, either way. But there's something always to learn. Because even if you've been the teacher, as a teacher, you're always learning from your student as well. And the student is learning from the teacher. So when we can actually sit with ourselves and know that this person has come into our life to mirror to us exactly what we needed to learn. And I know sometimes that can be a really hard pill to swallow, but we are always attracting like. Like attracts like. And if that is the case, all we need to do is sit and reflect and look at the qualities that we may not necessarily like in that other person and give ourselves a check in on ourselves. Well, where am I falling short from there? Where am I possibly being judgmental? You know, if this person is being really critical, there are things within us that person is showing us that they are often the catalyst for us to change. So, can we learn from our failed relationships? Absolutely. It's all about choice. It's all about choosing whether we want to learn. We all have free will and we all have the choice to either learn from it, learn from those failed relationships, take the goodness out of that relationship, use it to fortify us, use it to make us stronger, use it to be more mindful and have more awareness for when we step into the next relationship. But always with a compassionate heart, a loving heart, and being mindful, but not being, I guess, stuck in the judgment. Okay. And I often say that when we can check in on ourselves, check in on our feelings, checking on our bodies, we can read the messages. The signs are there. The signs are there to just take note, reflect on them, and then act on them accordingly. So, learning from our failed relationships is definitely possible. We just have to make that choice. We just have to be courageous to know that we can, and whatever we've experienced may be new. We've never done it before. We've never felt these feelings. We've never felt this pain. But if we can look at it as a positive, look at it that, this is fortifying me, this is making me stronger, this is not going to kill me. In fact, this is going to make me a better version of myself. And I'm only moving closer to the relationship that I desire and, want in my life. Because, I always say when we know what we don't want, we need to reflect on what it is that we want. And when we reflect on that and we're thinking about what it is that we desire and what we want to create in our lives, we are going to attract it in our lives because we are vibrating, we are emanating that, we are sitting in that beautiful energy of, desiring, loving, excitement, and I guess an open heart of learning and loving more. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. if you have any questions at all, if you have any topics that you would like me to talk about, please feel free to leave a message or DM me, and I'd only be too happy to answer your questions. Please check out my website, thegentlemansquare.com. And I do have a free ebook on there as well that you can pick up. And for all the gentlemen that are watching, I do have 2 groups that you may want to join, 2 free groups. And I'll leave the links down below. And that one is Rock Solid Relationships for Men. And the other one is Stop Attracting Toxic Women. So how to stop attracting toxic women. So if you feel like you want to be part of a community of men, of brothers, where we all share and support each other, feel free to join our group, join my groups. All right. So as always, I want to send you lots of love, lots of passion, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, click like, and share with your friends. And until next time, I send you love and I send you passion. Bye for now.